In Hamburg, Germany has rejected applying for the Olympic Games once again. I'm going to talk about this with Michael Vesper, chairman of the board of the German Olympic Sports Confederation. Welcome.
Thank you.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the DW interview. My name is Thomas Spahn. Mr. Vesper, you are one of the founding members of Germany's Green Party. You belong to what was called the Realo wing. What does the realistic politician say today? With this second refusal after Munich, has Germany parted ways with the Olympic movement, at least in terms of hosting the Games?
Of course, we will carry on and continue to try to embody the Olympic ideals. But this decision by the people of Hamburg makes it clear that we in Germany won't have the opportunity to host the Olympic Games again for a while. That makes us very sad. We're very disappointed, but this was the decision, a close decision, but a clear one.
It's said that the world's youth meets at the Olympics. You have 4 children. What do they say about the Hamburg decision?
They're sad. After all, it's their father's defeat. My middle son, an ardent fan of the Arminia Bielefeld soccer team, wrote me, "Papa, this isn't new to you. We Arminia fans are familiar with this. We lose a lot. You just have to get back up again afterward."
You were personally very involved in this. You fought for it. So how do you feel? Angry? Disappointed?
Disappointed, yes, but not angry. Very disappointed. But now we have to analyze it. What were the causes? The preparations were outstanding. We had a very high voter turnout for a referendum, just over 50%. In terms of intensity, the mobilization in Hamburg was beyond comparison with what there was 2 years ago in Munich. It was much greater, much more intense. And we had a concept that was not only praised in glowing terms internationally, but also really had no opponents in Hamburg. We had a vision for Hamburg that was simply great. That's not what led to failure.
But the Olympics are not responsible for urban development. They have to be worthwhile in themselves.
That's absolutely right. The Olympics are the biggest sports event in the world. But the International Olympic Committee wants everything that's built for the Olympics to still be needed and used after these 17 days of Olympics and 12 days of Paralympics.
That's one of your arguments. It pays off. But if that's true, then you ought to be able to attract private investors, shouldn't you?
What got short shrift in the public discussion is that if you look at the costs solely of carrying out the Games, at the projected prices of 2024, that would have been 3.4 billion euros. And this sum would be covered by the IOC subsidy of $1.7 billion, plus the proceeds of ticket sales, merchandising, and national sponsorships. In past Olympics, there's always been a profit, and it would have been here too.
The Champions League held its final in Berlin without asking for public money. Why do the Olympics have to demand public subsidies?
You can't compare the Olympic sport disciplines with soccer. First, soccer is the most popular sport of all and has lots of financial possibilities. Second, at the Olympics, 44 world championships are carried out in 17 days. With the Paralympics, you have another 20 championships. And in this period, the spotlight is on athletic disciplines that, unlike soccer, haven't had a stage to present themselves on for 4 years.
But this stage was set up in Los Angeles and in Atlanta without tax money. Why shouldn't that be possible here in Germany?
It's not true that it was done there without tax revenue. But LA and Atlanta also had big corporate sponsors. The Atlanta Olympics were even called the Coca-Cola Games. But as I said, you have to distinguish between the costs of the games and the infrastructure. The costs of carrying out the games don't need public subsidies. But other measures, like building a new subway line or developing a city district, these projects can't be amortized within 4 weeks of Olympic and Paralympic Games. They were a vision for the future that would have been useful for Hamburg for decades.
Let's talk about what the decision means for you personally. It must feel like a severe political defeat for you, a sports political defeat, that the people of Hamburg rejected the Games. Is this worse for you than the political defeat in 2005, when your time as Deputy State Premier of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia came to an end?
Well, that's how it is in a democracy. You win some, and you want to win as often as possible, and you lose some. And then it's all about how you deal with this defeat, how you get back up again. And so this was quite similar. It's a bitter defeat, to which external factors contributed, but of course we made some mistakes ourselves from the sports side.
For example?
Well, maybe we didn't make the funding context clear enough. Maybe we didn't convey the Olympic values emotionally enough. But you know, in the discussion in recent days, we've heard both. We've heard criticism that we were too enthusiastic, that we appealed to emotions too much, and provided too little concrete information. But we also heard the opposite criticism, that we were too occupied with number crunching, too sober, and showed too little spirit. We'll have to analyze this carefully before drawing conclusions.
Wir werden das sehr, sehr sorgfältig aufarbeiten müssen und dann auch Folgerungen ziehen.
You spoke of the Olympic values, faster, higher, further. How idealistic does one have to be to celebrate top athletic achievements in times of state-sponsored doping in Russia and other nations?
You're mistaken if you think that faster, higher, farther are the Olympic values. The Olympic values are respect, tolerance, fairness, achievement, and internationalism. These are Olympic values that are connected with the Games. And part of this, of course, is a zero-tolerance policy toward any form of fraud, and that includes doping. So, if I may put it this way, what we recently saw in track and field from Russia is anti-Olympic. That's why, as far as track and field goes, the Russian Association has been suspended for the moment from the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro.
In Rio de Janeiro erstmal, was die Leichtathletik angeht, suspendiert.
But you are also an athlete in private life. Doesn't it bother you that on the one hand there is the noble ideal, but on the other hand, when you see the competitions, when you see Usain Bolt running, don't you have your doubts that this is a real achievement?
Wissen Sie, diesen
I reject this blanket suspicion to assume that someone must be doping just because he runs faster than others. That's just too simplistic. There's a very efficient control system. It's true, not everything is caught. A lot is caught later, because the blood samples taken at the Olympic Games are frozen for 8 years. I think now it's for 10 years, so that analytic methods developed later can find these banned substances. And of course, there is some fraud, I don't doubt that. But you have to prove it before you can accuse or suspect someone. And I think that the penalty that the anti-doping system imposes on athletes, namely an immediate 4-year suspension, is very effective internationally.
Das sind, die sofort wirksam wird. Und zwar international. Die sind schon sehr wirksam.
So at the next Games, will Russia be without its track and field athletes?
As it stands today, yes. But if Russia complies with the conditions imposed by the World Anti-Doping Agency and changes its system and cleans up its National Anti-Doping Agency, and its Track and Field Association does the same, then it's possible the suspension will be revoked.
I was addressing the hobby athlete Michael Vesper. When your Achilles tendon was not yet torn, you used to take part occasionally in semi-marathons. So how long a stretch will it be before Germany can dare apply for the Olympic Games again?
Well, I think it'll be longer than a marathon. At the moment, to be honest, we aren't thinking about it at all. There's no application on the horizon. When you've just had to accept such a defeat, even though your proposal was great, one that corresponded exactly to the Olympic Reform Agenda 2020, namely with modest, transparent, flexible games that aren't bombastic, as they have sometimes been elsewhere, well, you don't start thinking about the next application right away.
Mr. Vesper, we always end our interview with our 3 incomplete statements that we ask you to complete. Considering the decisions in Hamburg and Munich, the former East German top athlete Heike Drexler called for an end to referendums on such questions. So first, I, as a Green politician, on the contrary, think...
Your on the contrary already dictates my answer. I think that elements of direct democracy are good, but I don't think we should use them to undercut our representative democracy and those we vote into Parliament and the government.
Second, as General Secretary of the Central Committee of German Catholics, my brother represents 26 million Germans.
I have the good fortune, as I like to joke, that 27 million people are organized in sports clubs and sports associations in the German Olympic Sport Confederation. This is how we tease each other in my family. But it's fun to mention occasionally.
At 18, I wanted to turn the world upside down, and today...
I still do.
Michael Vesper, thank you very much.
You're welcome.